Hi guys, thanks for following me on this journey. It has been a long process, but we are finally coming towards the end of it. This is the last process that I have to complete before I can actually close up my walls. This is the installation process. And for those who do not know, the installation process just involves me applying insulation to the exterior walls. Of course, if you have multiple levels of your home, then you will have to provide insulation on every level, excluding the attic for now. So one of the things that I do to help make this process a little easier and quicker for me is I measured out 92 inches on a piece of plywood. I secured a 2x4 piece of board right at the end at the 92-inch mark. And that way I can continually roll out just a series of cut pieces in order for me to complete this process a little bit faster. So this is R13 insulation. It's a 32 feet roll. And so I can get four whole pieces for my walls out of this one roll. Have a little bitty piece left over, which will come in handy. So I just make a pile with those extra pieces for later. So this was my first time doing insulation. Just a couple of things to remember. Wear a hat, wear glasses, wear mask, gloves, and do get some old clothes. And when you're finished doing your insulation project every day, just throw those old clothes away. So just make sure it's something that you will not miss, because I try to wash and re-wear the same items so that I won't have to keep throwing away things, and it did not work. The insulation was still embedded in the fibers of my clothes, and let's just say the next day I was itching like crazy. So just go ahead and throw all of that stuff away. So what I am doing now is just gathering all the bundles up, and what I like to do is just drop them in the area where I need to insulate next. So I really like this process of filling up the spaces with the insulation because it really makes me feel like, wow, girl, you almost there for every room. And that's how I had to look at it, because, you know, if you think about 92, 93 spaces, that's a lot. But if you conquer one room at a time and just focus on that one room, it really fills up and goes by very quickly. So I'm revealing that between two studs, you might have wires, you may have electrical boxes running in that same area. What we have to do in case of electrical boxes is cut out to reveal that electrical boxes around the insulation in that spot. And in case of the wires, you just will split the insulation and tuck the insulation behind the wire. And in fact, in the case of the electrical boxes, I also tuck insulation behind those electrical boxes so that there's no void as well, before refacing and stapling the insulation onto the studs. Now, when I climb up on the ladder, I like to secure 3 or 4 at the same time, just going across the front with my staple gun. So I go across the front. You know, there's a crease on the side where, you know, you have to take the time out and unfold in order to secure that portion onto the stud. I'm not a perfectionist, but I do like things to be nice and tidy. So one thing I would say about this, stapling is I have both the handheld staple gun and the hammer gun. The hammer gun just takes a little more skill to use. I did not get used to using that, and it takes a lot of arm strength, and especially when you up and down on these ladder, it wasn't something that I was willing to, take a chance on. So the staple gun handheld worked very well. I liked it. So you see me unfolding and staple. One thing about when I'm doing 2 or 3 at a time, I can actually unfold on both ends and put one staple to attach both pieces to the stud at the same time. So that again saves me time. And saves me staples, because with the handheld, the staple gun is limited to how many staples it will hold. And so that was another thing that was irritating, just having to repeatedly, especially if you have to keep going up and down trying to find staples. One thing I got to invest in is a bag, a tool bag. That's what I need. I need a tool bag so I can have everything right there at my disposal. But at this juncture, not yet. You can see now I'm off the ladder and I am securing the insulation onto the studs. And at this point in the game, I'm, literally almost halfway done with the installation process. So you see me taking my time and smoothing everything in place before I staple, making everything look nice and neat as I go along. And that's really important, just to make sure that there's no gaps or voids that can any air to get through. Before I forget, the most important step in this whole process began before the installation started. And that was for me to get foam spray. I got a bunch of foam spray and I made a spray line along every stud, and even along the OSB where it came together. Maybe there was a little light coming through, maybe there was a little gap. I made sure that I sealed every penetration along that wall, just to ensure that there was no voids and there was no gaps and there was no place for any insects to come through that wall. And here is the final project. All the exterior walls are done, and foam was used to again seal any areas that I could not get to with insulation alone. The next morning, I called the inspector, and the inspector walked through, and he asked, "Did you do this by yourself?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "You know what? You do better than most professionals."